talking here on Friday the 15th of October at the Sydney Barrel Tasting with winemaker extraordinaire Neil Doddridge. Doddy to his mates. Doddy, can you just give us bring us up to speed on terms of your background and your history as a winemaker?
Been 35 years now making wine, originally with Leo Beerings back in the early 70s, and then later with Seppelts, and then later again with St Hallett. Then moved off and helped build a winery in the southeast of South Australia, in Narracourt, stayed there for 5 years, and then most recently with Black Wattle for the last 10 years.
Now, Black Wattle is based on the Limestone Coast of South Australia in terms of its fruit resource. Can you just explain what defines the Limestone Coast?
Limestone Coast itself is quite a large region. It stretches from Meningie in the north right down to Mount Gambier in the south, a length of some 150 kilometres. So in terms of its geographic indicator, it's a very big area, and it goes inland out to the border with Victoria. So it's quite a big chunk of South Australia. The very southeastern corner of South Australia is all classified as Limestone Coast. Mount Benson itself is right on the coast, about halfway down the coast between Mount Gambier and Meningie.
Dottie, what makes the Limestone Coast, Mount Benson, Robe regions, etc., so good?
Those particular regions, Mount Benson, Robe, are terrific because they are a true maritime climate. Both of those vineyards are within 2 kilometres of the sea. We have specifically interesting climatic data, very similar to that of Bordeaux in France. So heat degree days are very, very similar to the Bordeaux region, although we have a higher degree of maritime influence, maritime cooling from the sea. Southern Ocean is only 2 kilometres away in direct line of sight. The Coonawarra region is quite famous for its soils, and it's certainly been a landmark or hallmark for the region. It's the red soil over a limestone layer and then more gravelly red soil underneath. And the area of Mount Benson and region, the regional characteristics of soil are very much the same. So a shallow layer of soil, limestone which has been broken up, and then free draining soil underneath that. It's super soil for growing vines. It's not highly nutritive, so very low yielding.
So I was just about to ask, is that why grapes love growing in that sort of soil?
They don't particularly love growing in that sort of soil. It's quite limiting to crops because we don't get a great deal of growth or vigour from the vines, which is exactly what we want when we're growing great Cabernet, great Chardonnay, great Shiraz. We don't want vigour, we actually want limited crop yields. We really want to make the vines work quite hard to produce the fruit. That's where we get our fruit concentration and our great colours and great flavours.
You mentioned good grapes, good wines. Under Black Wattle, roughly how many medals do you think you've won, and what sort of medals have you won?
Well, the vineyard's been producing medal-winning wines since the mid-90s. I think my first recollection of gold medals off the vineyard was back in '95. So we've been, for some 15 years now, we've been producing medal-winning wines. I'd suggest there's probably been 4 or 5 trophies off of that vineyard. I know of at least 3 for Cabernet Sauvignon. I know of at least 2 for Chardonnay in the last 15 years, plus some for Shiraz. And also we've done very well with our rosé, with our Merlot rosé over the years. So been very, very successful vineyard in terms of show results.
And just to clarify, in terms of a trophy is better than a gold?
Any medal is a bonus. Seriously, certainly a trophy is a very hard fought piece of metal to get hold of as a winemaker. We're up against the best winemakers in the world in Coonawarra and in the southeast region. So if we can gain a medal, a gold medal in particular is fantastic. A trophy is just over the moon for us. Trophies are stunning.
Dottie, I know my favourite Chardonnay is the Black Wattle, so far is the Black Wattle Black Label Chardonnay 2006. What made that particular Chardonnay from that year stand out?
Stunning vintage for us. Beautiful mild conditions. We'd had really good rains throughout the earlier part of the year, so great opening rains, quite mild conditions, and then quite a cool summer. When I say cool, relative to other regions where our maximum temperatures don't very rarely get above 35 degrees C. So we have these very cool nights with the cooling influence from the sea, so extended maturation periods, so really concentrated fruit flavours. And 06 was just the perfect vintage in terms of its maturation, and the Black Label is the best of the best from that region for that year.
In terms of vintages since then, what ones stand out in your mind?
All of our vintages are great. There's no getting away from the fact that we have a supremely premium vineyard that produces great fruit, great wine. But probably standouts have been 06 and 07. 07 was also a very good year for us. 08, difficult year with hot conditions. 09, another fantastic year with cooler conditions. I think that's showing in the fruit right now. In fact, we've just won another gold medal for Black Wattle Icon Chardonnay just last week in the Adelaide Wine Show.
Dottie, I know you at Black Wattle Vineyards make the classics varieties, Chardonnay, Shiraz, Cabernet, Merlot. What's your favourite variety to make and why?
From that particular vineyard, my favourite is still Chardonnay. I love making white wine. It's a challenge. It's not a simple wine to make in the manner that we're making it. We're making it in a very traditional Burgundian manner, which is quite technically demanding. So it's a challenge. I love making Cabernet off that vineyard because the Cabernet is just super. It doesn't seem to matter what we do to it. The Cabernet results are always terrific.
I read something in the paper the other day, and I believe it too, but since the thing we call the Savalanche, which is the avalanche of Sauvignon Blanc, of course, in the white wine market, overtaking Chardonnay as the biggest volume white wine in the Australian market at the moment, being driven by Marlborough, I've heard that white wine makers are making their Chardonnays smarter than ever. Do you agree with that?
I think the Chardonnays have always been very smart. The fact is now that we have a lot more focus on the very high-end Chardonnay. The Savalanche, as you call it, we call it the New Zealand weed, has really taken over the lower-end Chardonnay market to some extent, but there's still room for great Chardonnay in Australia. And yes, I think we've all, as winemakers throughout the whole country, risen to the challenge and are making better wines now than we were, say, 15 years ago.
So what we used to call the knife and fork Chardonnays, are they still around or are they part of the past?
Oh no, very much still around. And I think they will stay around. There is a large part of our wine drinking audience who are looking for that type of wine. And they are very good wines. There's no doubt that that style of wine is very popular and the wines are very, very drinkable.
Neil Doddridge, thank you very much.